I hope many of you listening to this have watched my first documentary, and you will now have a better understanding of why you are the way you are. What I am about to teach you may scare and horrify you, but this is not my intention. My intention is to teach you the intentions of others, and when we all know, together we can stop them. I will repeat a few things from the first documentary, but repetition is the best form of education. Destroying your mind and controlling you has always been the aim of one group of people. These people brought their experiments with them from the East across Europe many times, and then eventually found sanctuary in Scotland. Scotland is the home of modern science and the British Empire, the beast that the Bible teaches us of, and the ancestral home of the Antichrist, as I will now show you. Under the reign of the Antichrist, many predictions occurred, and many soon will unfold if we do not stop them. Here is what Nostradamus prophesied about the Antichrist. He would rise in a nation in Europe. Britain, as we all know, is in Europe. He will be a leader of a strong economy. Britain had a strong economy and had its strongest economy when the Antichrist took office. He will have weapons of mass destruction. Britain has the nuclear bomb, and under his reign he tricked people with his weapon of mass destruction, his tongue, his reptilian tongue, that Saddam Hussein also had them. He will reunite the Holy Roman Empire. All the British press at the time said Britain played a significant part in the construction of the European Union, formerly known as the Treaty of Rome. There will be a terrible undoing of people and animals. All the experiments by science that controls the foods of both humans and animals is what he means. Science is what leads the British Empire. He deceives many a nation. Every time he opened his mouth, he did this. The Iraq War and all the lies is one, and the global economy that brought the recession to the world are two examples. He will implement a totalitarian state. He created new laws giving his government more power over the British, and his government employed more people than the Chinese government that is communist. When you understand the messages in the Bible and of our Saviour, you see the most important asset in all our lives is our own mind. Therefore, anything we put into it that can alter it severely will go against the teachings of Jesus that said to keep the body and mind pure. Avoiding yeast and keeping their body pure is what one group of people do religiously, and these people include Freemasons, and the Antichrist is a Freemason. This group brought you royalty, religion and science that have all used the elements of the apple that came from the mind of the devil to destroy and control you. They also create laws to enforce the way of hell upon you that got many of your ancestors to kill many innocent people many times throughout history, and sometimes sponsored by the Vatican. The Iraq War is proof of the law being used to cause a war caused during the reign of the Antichrist, as predicted by Nostradamus when he said the Third World War would be ignited under his reign, and it would reign for 104 years. As I said, he also predicted he would reunite the Holy Roman Empire, which is now the European Union, controlled by science, originally brought to the world by the British, that now defiles all foods. They used the rule of law to enforce their views on the British people, and this law was used to get them to go to war against Iraq, all because of lies. During the reign of the Antichrist, the mind of the British people were defiled in every way, using every tactic, chemically, vibrationally, visually, sickness and disease, psychology, poverty, keeping them uneducated, and installing fear and enforcing laws that go against the teachings of the Bible. All the chemicals in the foods were changed, and all the elements of the apple and many more toxins like MSG and aspartame were added to the foods, and people were advised to take more bacteria and protein. They were also tricked that sugar gives you energy, but sugar feeds yeast, the organism Jesus warned us to avoid, the organisms that Freemasons avoid, the creators of modern day science. This is because yeast is a prion and brings all toxins and bacteria into the brain, which leads to all brain disease. CJD proves disease can be carried from the gut to the brain, and our prion wouldn't make a serious mistake like that, because we are made by the highest intelligent life force throughout the universe. MSG, that is now in most foods, has been proven to attack the hypothalamus, the control tower of your brain, and aspartame was shown to erase memory and attack the optical nerve, and yeast invades the inner part of your brain by first destroying your neurons or brain cells. When an organisation can lie and get 1 million people innocently killed, it will lie and deceive and trick people that certain elements are okay, good for you. The sugar scenario is one clear example. Under the reign of the Antichrist, it was flooded into British foods, and Europe is controlled by supermarkets, and one rapidly expanding supermarket at the time was a sponsor of the British Labour Party and is owned by a Scottish lord, and a Scottish lord created the law that caused the Iraq War. Researching the First World War, as I show in my other documentary, you see that the British lords colluded with the French to cause the First World War, all to expand businesses. Vibrations or words, sayings and slogans is another way to defile the mind, especially when you feed the population nothing but lies and keep them uneducated about health and use their most vital asset to control and destroy them. The press is the main spreader of this disease, as were the scribes in biblical times. And I witnessed another sponsor of the Labour Party, the Sun newspaper, racially abuse my people, the Irish and black people, for 20 years. This paper caused unrest in society every weekend by inciting football violence, and they were accused of causing the Brixton riots with racist comments. Visually, they continually sexualised children, and this political party wanted the age of sexual consent dropped, leaving all your children vulnerable to paedophiles. Most adverts at the time were of a sexual nature, and they also had demonic symbolism in them while the Labour Party was in power. One advert was Red Bull gives you wings. This drink contains caffeine that speeds up the heart, which speeds up the blood. When the walls of the cells are weakened by the continual attack from toxins and bacteria that eat away at the lining, this can lead to leakages in the body, and in the brain it leads to strokes. Psychology was used on the British all the time, and this party employed psychologists in every department, and the use of words go back as far as biblical times and before, as this book proves. This book on the Kabbalah teaches of the power of words and psychology. The book tells of the hold that words of power and magical names have over millions of people to this day. Also, that arising in the world today are new political groupings which are emerging upon the world stage. These political groupings are creating such words and names which will in years to come be charged with the magical power over the minds and hearts of men. This was the term used by the Labour Party during the Iraq War, the British were continually told that it was a battle to win hearts and minds. Under his reign, education was changed, and he emphasised this fact with education, education, education. This party enforced the teaching of homosexuality to children of 5, and using the law, they wanted to legalise paedophilia, as these articles prove. Studying psychology, you learn that from 0 to 7, the mind rapidly takes in new information, especially in an environment full of concentration. Why not teach these children the main message of Jesus, that was to protect the mind? These headlines tell of the fact that the Labour Party sponsored and gave an organisation called PI affiliate status, protection from the law. They wanted the age of sexual consent dropped to 4 years of age. PI stands for Paedophile Information Exchange, so there was no mistake when they awarded them £500,000 and protected them from the law. 3 high-ranking members of the Labour Party, all lawyers, worked for this organisation for 2 years. 2 were women and 1 was the deputy leader. They would have battled to implement the organisation's proposals, and I thought government's first rule was to protect the children of the population. The articles also talk of a high-ranking judge caught up in a paedophile scandal that was advisor to the Queen, and the British do not know the Queen's husband is a high-ranking Freemason. Paedophilia is accepted high up in the British establishment, and any thoughts of this nature come from a diseased mind, and this is what all their toxins and bacteria will soon do to all yours. All this disease and defilement of our most vital asset, the mind, was carried out during the reign of the Antichrist. Our minds are now being attacked from every angle. This political party defiled everything, the foods, water, atmosphere, all predicted in the Bible. The British establishment have always known the cause of disease because they have always caused it, as Dr. Weston Price's brilliant research proves. It proves the cause of deformity, the main reason why women have abortions, and it also proves that the Aborigines cured themselves of diseases like TB, the initials of the Antichrist, when they returned to their own foods, mainly vegetables. These foods were the foods that every woman and child on earth used to eat until the disciples of the devil descended upon them, that brought his knowledge to the world that they now call science.
People who were raised in Japan, the Philippines, Korea, China, never had heart disease, prostate cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis.
Virtually the Western diet was non-existent. They had no animal products. They had no dairy, no meat.
We learned that we could turn on and turn off cancer growth just by adjusting the level of intake of that protein.
I knew at that point what caused most diseases.
Our national authorities are simply excluding this concept in order to protect the status quo.
This is why Monsanto, owned by Cargill, originally from Scotland, tampered with all the vegetables to nullify their healing effect. Under the reign of the Antichrist, the British were tricked that they need meat for protein, and that clip showed protein feeds cancer. The British have always been tricked to avoid vegetables that once contained all the healing elements before Monsanto experimented on them. Darwin was the first to do this. They have always been tricked with slogans like the Great British Menu, bangers and mash, pie and mash, fish and chips and sausage and chips. None of these dishes had vegetables that contained the healing elements. This is why when I was a child, Britain seemed to me like hell on earth. Sadly, the British lads were quick to fight. They couldn't reason. It was all attack, 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 attack. A bit like their empire. They do know how vital vegetables are, as Dr. Weston Price's research proved. His book teaches that in the early 1900s, London had 80% juvenile delinquency. They carried out extensive surveys and found the major factor was malnutrition, and when they fed them vegetable soup and bread, their behaviour rapidly changed. Malnutrition means lacking in good elements, the elements that protect the body and help repair it and keep it calm. Elements like magnesium, potassium, calcium and sodium that used to be found in vegetables, and this was taught to us by Hippocrates. All the elements found in vegetables calm the body from within, leaving the person to be calm on the outside. If the person is being fed things that destroy it from within, then this will make the person feel it is okay to be destructive on the outside, because this will be the message they receive from within. I have witnessed twice the destruction of the mind in Britain. As I said, when I grew up, the lads that were British were quick to fight. They were aggressive. It was just fight, 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 fight. If they disagreed with you, it was a fight, instant fight. And recently, while the Labour Party were in power, sex crimes increased and children were just going around stabbing each other and fighting for no reason. And also, when I grew up, you had the football violence, mini riots every weekend, and also the Brixton riots. This is proof that chemicals on the brain do cause destruction to the mind. Alcohol and drugs, as I keep saying, are two clear indicators of this. But people still fail to see there are far worse chemicals in the food. Their research of the time found that the children's behavioural problems all came down to what they ate, and when rectified, they sorted the problem and changed the children's minds or their way of thinking. This was taught to us by Hippocrates but ignored by science, and science does know that thinking and feeling are the same, and body and mind are one. They are the same, so what will destroy one will destroy the other. The British brought science to the world, saying it would be the saviour of mankind, but they have ignored the messages from our saviour, who taught to keep the body pure and protect the mind. Everything science creates destroys the mind, and they use slogans like "God doesn't mind you having fun." You need to wake up fast. Who in their right mind would knowingly allow their child to destroy themselves and stand back and say they are only having fun? To carry on with this ideology, you soon will be tricked to allow your children to sleep with adults, because this is what the Labour Party want. And some people stop at nothing to get what they want. This is why all teaching throughout history were food warnings, and the Antichrist should know he is a Freemason, and they created science, and Freemasons hand down secrets. This is why they avoid your foods and don't eat yeast. What this means is the way your children are today, they would have stopped it. None of your children should have been backward, disabled, aggressive or bad in any way, shape or form. This was proven by the Aborigines that went to great measures during and after childbirth. They purified their bodies, and this produced a purified body and mind in their children. Happy-go-lucky children, and healthy. Sugar from the apple is the root cause, because sugar depletes or wastes the vital nutrients, and it feeds yeast that attacks you from within. So why would science want sugar in everything and for it to be classed as a nutrient? This was the commodity that led the slave trade, and when they tricked the world to open up their markets with their global economy for trade, the descendants of the British Empire, America, took control of the sugar. Jesus taught us to be aware of the foods of the Pharisees that were Phoenicians and Pharaohs before them, and now pharmacies or scientists that control the foods once again. Jesus also taught you to keep the body pure and avoid yeast, as I said, and all foods are now impure and they all have yeast in them. He also said that it would be easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than a rich man into heaven, and under the reign of the Labour Party, the global economy was created. He also said a lawyer is more impervious further away to the gates of heaven than a rich man, and under the Labour Party the law was used to protect a paedophile organisation, force people to accept homosexuality, and used to cause the Third World War. Jesus taught of peace, love and harmony, and said that only in truth can we be saved, and under the Antichrist's leadership the world received the opposite: hatred, war and revenge, sickness and disease, poverty and terror, all caused by rancid lies. Once again, Jesus said, "You are of your father the devil, and your will is to your father's desires." He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks according to his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not of God. Jesus is clearly telling the Pharisees that their will is to their father's desires. Their father is Shem, who had Elam, Assur, Arphaxad, Lud and Aram. Abraham was one of the descendants of Arphaxad, and Abraham is the patriarch or founder of the Hebrews. All royal families today are descendants of Shem or Ham, the two sons of Noah, which signifies prominence and mastership, and this is evident in British society today, but more so in earlier years. Shem is credited with the murder or the killing of Nimrod, son of Cush, and this is why Jesus said that their father was a murderer, because this nation are descendants of Shem. Shem is also the blessed of Yahweh, another name for the other God in the spiritual world that you know as Noah in the physical world. These are the two sons of Satan that the Freemasons follow, the ones that created modern science, and as I said, the British Queen's husband is a high-ranking Freemason. Descendants of Shem and Ham have built all empires: the Empire of Carthage, the African Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Roman Empire, and now the British Empire, which is alive and well and being enforced by America. All these empires were full of all the mind and body disorders that I continually teach: homosexuality, paedophilia, bestiality, the right to end and create life, cannibalism, lupus, shrunken baby skulls, cancers, money worship, devil worship. Sounds like modern times, and the British establishment, the home of the modern empire and the home of the beast in the book of Revelations. This is because without their knowledge, our world would have been a beautiful, wonderful place. This country never civilized the world. They only spread the ways of evil, and they are still doing so today, with globalization and secularism being spread by America and expansion of their empire, who only worship money and care nothing about life. I mentioned cannibalism earlier, that was brought to the West in the 13th century by Isaac the Blind Jew. And when the Phoenicians had their empire of Carthage, cannibalism was also rife amongst the empires and is now back once again. They said cannibalism was a freak of human nature and shrunken skulls were caused by boiling them. This article proves that cannibalism can be induced by one of the many ways they use to control you: chemicals. Recent stories of the Zika virus proves that shrunken skulls, which they said was caused by boiling them, proves another lie of science. and it also verifies the warning in the Bible of the apple that contained chemicals and a fungus that eat you from the inside out. Darwin teaches that life is a process of natural selection. Therefore, all science creates all disease, because they create unnatural elements, sugar being the first. These elements are guided by the one they worship, as I continually show, the cosmic serpent, the cosmic powers our Saviour warned us of. The descendants of Ham were cursed by Satan, who said that the nations of Ham would be forever as slaves of Shem. This is why Jesus said, "Your will is to your father's desires." And under the reign of the Antichrist, the Middle East was set ablaze. If man can be forced to eat another man or creature, he can be tricked or compelled to sleep with another man, as their experiments with LSD proves, more chemicals. The history of the British and American establishments is full of deceit, corruption, lies, assassinations and causing wars, as it was in biblical times and before, all the way back to the Hebrew and the Kabbalah, the demonic worshipping cult of the Hebrew, the esoteric science of the rabbi that brought the blood of the devil with them from the east. This is the world's first religion. This is why they continue to spill the blood of the children of my God, the God of all the good, and did so to all my ancestors. The ancestors of the Antichrist butchered and tortured and slaughtered my ancestors and my guide Jesus Christ our Saviour. I am a follower of the Spirit of Christ, who has been denounced by the Vatican and is soon to be washed out of your mind with secularism, with the help of the Antichrist, as is warned in the Bible. The beast in the Bible is the British Empire that has been royal, religious and now scientific, all brought to the West by the original children of hell. I know the day will come and soon our world will revert back to the times that God, the creator of all the good and the truth, wanted for us, that has been stolen from you by those who keep fooling you. Jesus was one of them. I do not want revenge. I seek justice for my ancestors and all the ancestors of our world, and for the most courageous man ever to grace our beautiful world, Jesus Christ our Saviour, who were all tortured, butchered and slaughtered at the hand of the Antichrist's ancestors and all their friends and relations that are now all your elite class. I have shown you all the tactics and powers that they use against you to reverse your thinking and completely alter your state of mind, and it is getting sinister because these people do not care what happens to anyone as long as they get their way. The Iraq War is proof. How can the world still believe Britain and America that completely wiped 1 million lives off the face of this planet with a lie? Now I have a grave warning for the people of our world, especially America, Britain and Ireland. These people now have the weapon of mass manipulation, as predicted by Nostradamus, and it will cause two of his predictions, one being the nuclear war and the other the mega tsunami, as I will now prove. Harp.net. Political strategists are tempted to exploit research on the brain and human behaviour. Geophysicist Gordon J. F. MacDonald, a specialist in problems of warfare, says accurately timed, artificially executed electronic strokes could lead to a pattern of oscillations that produce relatively high power levels over certain areas of the Earth. In this way, one could develop a system that would seriously impair the brain performance of a very large population in selected regions over an extended period. This is mass manipulation. No matter how deeply disturbing the thought of using the environment to manipulate behaviour for national advantages, to some the technology permitting such use will probably develop within the next few decades. That time is now here, and they have already used it on the atmosphere, firing a laser at the sun to increase the ionosphere's temperature, tricking the world's scientists with the Big Bang Theory. US patent number 5159703, approved in 1992. A silent communication system in which normal carriers in the very high or low audio frequency range or in the adjacent ultrasonic frequency spectrum are amplitude or frequency modulated with the desired intelligence and propagated acoustically or vibrationally for inducement into the brain, typically through the use of loudspeakers, earphones, piezoelectric transducers. The modulated carriers may be transmitted directly in real time or may be conveniently recorded and stored on the mechanical, magnetic or optical media for delayed or respected transmission to the listener. This system was tested on the British youth to disperse them from hanging around supermarkets. The main one was the one that sponsored the Labour Party that was recently caught up in the meat scandal. They are currently using this system on the Irish, and this is another of their mind control tactics. The fact that they now have a system that can control the mind of an organic organism is very worrying. This is because they have taken over the control from the will of God, the creator of all the good. Those of you that watch my documentary should by now understand there are two gods, and even by what you just discovered, Jesus did exist, because his prophecies are unfolding, and he did call them the children of hell. He has guided me to teach you what they did, what they are doing, and what they are about to do. This is how it works. It is to get a clear understanding of what these people have done, and that they will not change and never will. They do honour and worship the devil. He is their father. How many more lies are you going to be fooled? Jesus was never one of them, and if you fail to see this, your time will soon be up. The fact that HAARP can send subliminal messages to your brain means that they now can control the mind of something their God never created, but has continually sought to destroy. Surely you can see just how amazing you all really are. Even with their continual experiments, life still survives, because life is controlled by the will of my God, the creator of all the good in our universe and all your subconscious minds. Therefore, this means that they can control the minds of things that they created, and they created computers. Worryingly, governments with nuclear weapons that they also created believe that they are safe because they are not connected to the internet. Neither are we, but HAARP can override our minds. This means HAARP can override the minds of any computer, a bit like the film War Games. It is the weapon of mass manipulation Nostradamus warned us of. Nostradamus predicted the nuclear war will be triggered in Persia, modern-day Iran, but it will really be triggered by the controllers of HAARP, making it look like Iran. He said 3 missiles will be fired at New York, 2 will be stopped, and the other one will get through, and this will completely annihilate every living soul. Sadly, I now have more bad news for America, but you can change your destiny. You must bring down HAARP. Your government must not be trusted. Nostradamus predicted the tsunami would be caused by the earth being rocked on its axis, and this would wipe out the entire eastern border of America and sink Ireland and England without trace. Here is how this will be caused. HAARP.net Earth as a spherical electrical system is fairly well accepted. However, those experimenters who want to make an unnatural power connection between parts of this system might not be thinking of possible consequences. Electrical motors and generators can be caused to wobble when their circuits are affected. This wobble will cause the Earth to be rocked on its axis, and this is what will cause the biggest ever tsunami the world will ever see, and this is the floods mentioned in the Bible. We can change the destiny of our world armed with the truth, the most powerful weapon in the universe, and it is as Jesus taught us, that only in truth can we be saved. The predictions of Nostradamus of a clone race is now 90% of the world's population, as predicted in the Bible also, because you now all have been force-fed elements of the devil. Science now only teaches you that you are made up of elements, and so is everything around you, and your spirits are around you. Therefore, when you are made up of elements of the devil, you will have his demons around you. This is how some of you can be made to do things that go against the teachings of the Bible, even commit horrific acts like cannibalism, which is soon to take hold in all your societies once again, as it did in all their empires. This is what Nostradamus meant when he said, "And the beasts will eat them in the streets." Some people really don't care what they do to others and will use everything at their disposal to destroy as many people as they can. There are others that really do care about you and your life, but sometimes you foolishly don't listen and stupidly think you know. I beg you to heed my warning, otherwise you are soon to be dragged back through the gates of hell, and trust me, you really don't want to go there, because I have been dragged there many times, because the devil wanted to stop what I was doing. Some people may think what I do is wrong, but these people are not right-minded. Please pass on this as quick as you can. Our time is running out. These events will happen while Trump is in power. Nostradamus predicted these events will unfold after the reign of the Black Puppet. He was referring to Obama. Do not seek revenge. Only one entity will guide you to get it. I seek justice for Jesus and all his followers, and all those who held the torch of truth before him. Britain and America must be stopped if we are to save our lives and change our world. I hope you are now filled with the truth of Jesus, and may his light always shine upon you.